Hi, I'm Adrian Atkinson, and you're watching Jamaica Magazine. Thanks for joining us for another edition of this daily show that brings you the facts you need to know to improve your life. On the pages today, the strength of breast cancer survivors, plus the Director General of the Public Sector Transformation and Modernization Program, Venice Pottinger-Scott, is back with us on issues. She provides further clarity on public sector reform. Please stay with us as the information continues to flow.
Chikungunya is a viral infection transmitted when an Aedes aegypti mosquito bites an infected person and then bites someone else. Symptoms include high fever, headache, joint pain, muscle pain, and rash. If you suspect that you've been infected, take paracetamol such as Panadol, Cetamol, and Tylenol. Infants, children under 5 years old, pregnant women, the elderly, persons with sickle cell, and chronic illnesses such as diabetes and cardiovascular disease are at risk for more severe symptoms and must see a doctor for proper evaluation and monitoring. Fortunately, most cases of CHIKV are mild, but if your symptoms worsen, you need to see a doctor. For more info, call 1-888-1-LOVE from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. That number again, 1-888-663-5683.
The Ebola virus is transmitted through direct contact with an infected person's blood or other bodily fluids such as saliva, urine, stool, and semen. The virus can also be spread if broken skin comes in contact with contaminated items like clothing, bed linen, and needles used by an Ebola patient. Symptoms of Ebola include sudden onset of fever, intense weakness, muscle pain, headache, and sore throat. This may be followed by vomiting, diarrhea and rash, impaired kidney and liver functions, and in some cases both internal and external bleeding leading to death. Ebola cannot be spread by someone who does not have symptoms. The time between exposure and when a person begins to have symptoms is known as the incubation period. For Ebola, this is anywhere from 2 to 21 days. Infected patients should be handled by persons wearing proper personal protective equipment, then transferred to designated isolation centers. Protect yourself. Avoid travel to Ebola-affected countries. Avoid contact with infected persons. Don't touch the body of someone who has died from Ebola. Wash hands frequently and use an alcohol-based sanitizer. To know more, call the Health Ministry's Emergency Operations Center at 1-888-1-LOVE. That's 1-888-663-5683.
The issue of job cuts within the public sector is a concern for many Jamaicans. Director General of the Public Sector Transformation and Modernization Program, Venice Pottinger-Scott, sits again in the issues chair, answering those hard questions on public sector improvement. She's next with Ian Boyd.
Thanks for joining us for Issues and Answers. We are again talking about the critical matter of public sector reform. That is something that concerns you because you have to deal with government, you have to go to government offices, you have business to do with government, and public sector reform is about making things easier for you. It's about reducing the length of time that it takes to do business with government to get your documents. We have with us the Director General of Public Sector Transformation and Modernization, Venice Pottinger-Scott, and she'll be continuing our discussion on the critical things that are taking place and the important timelines over the next 18 months particularly. We thank you for your company. Mrs. Pottinger-Scott, good to have you again.
Thank you again.
The issue of mergers, there are a number of people who say there are so many government agencies, they duplicate services. You could merge the services, you could bring some of the agencies together, you could abolish some of them. What do you say about this?
That is an area that has been considered and agreed to, that it is an approach that the government is going to be using under this program. In fact, you will recall that in the case of the police force, a merger has already taken there already, and now the cabinet has also approved the merger of the forensic lab and the medical lab, and it is going to be called the Institute of Forensic Science and Legal Medicine. Now that is particularly important because, as you know, crime is one of the biggest deterrent to economic growth, and it is a way of tackling that problem of where criminal activities take place and people are not caught. In
So that institute will have a measure of independence. It will.
Well, the institute wants to be seen as a body that is there to give objective services.
Will it be an executive agency?
It is to be determined. We're going through that analytical process at this time to determine, but it definitely wants that level of autonomy and objectivity. So because it's not only about us, but also possible use by international bodies. I mean, we could cross boundaries depending on how the institute is doing. But the Ministry of National Security sees this as a very important entity to help with the crime problem. Now, you were talking about mergers otherwise.
Generally, yes.
And the idea is, as you know, there were a number of recommendations coming out of the MRP, the Master Rationalization Plan, about mergers and outsourcing and also privatization. And some of them have, in fact, been going on. But what we have been asked to do now is to look back at that proposed list of areas for any of those approaches, but at the same time review also the procedures that are used to carry out either of the three possibilities, and to come up with a set of recommended final list as well as process improvement for consideration. And that is what we're going to fast track, of course, working in tandem with the DBJ on that. Yes?
Should we be expecting mass redundancies? I mean,
put it this way. In the early periods of consultations and reviews by consultants, when the MRP itself was being developed, those concerns were raised, and I know that it was seen as the main objective of that program. But that is not the consideration, because in the review it did not show, it did not demonstrate any massive redundancies of the nature that you're talking about. And that is why other strategies have had to be employed, like in the case of mergers, because as long as we have organizations that are losing money, what have you, and it continues to be a liability on the part of the government if it is carried. That is why the intention is to try and get to savings rather than try through those approaches.
So to privatization, for example.
Yes, rather than
So would you have a list of agencies, departments that are being looked at to privatize?
Well, if you've been following the news in recent times, you'd have seen that some of them have in fact been happening. For example, the Wallingford Coffee Company and so on. But the idea, though, is to re-examine, and because there may be others that could be added to the list. And so it's a process of re-examination that we are going to be going to, while some of those that were already agreed continue to go through the system.
We're talking public sector transformation and modernization. If we are to attract the level of investments that we need, if we are to, as a public sector, deliver the kind of quality service that is needed, changes have to be made. And the Director General responsible for this area is with us. We'll take a break, but we'll be right back.
We want a productive Jamaica. We are not productive Jamaicans. Productivity to move forward on this land. Productivity, that's the way to go, we should understand. Productivity is the way to go for all us Jamaicans. Small business, big business, old and young, we are tell every woman and man. We want growth and prosperity for a better nation with a building plan. So we can build our product and sell our product and put more money in our hand. Our economy can rise to a level and build a better nation. Productivity to move forward on this land. Productivity, that's the way to go, we should understand. Productivity to move forward on this land. Productivity, that's the way to go, we should understand. Productivity.
Productivity, Pathway to Prosperity. A message brought to you by the Jamaica Productivity Center, a department of the Ministry of Labor and Social Security.
Public sector reform is the name of the game. Public sector transformation and modernization. That's the issue that we are looking at on Issues and Answers. Today, the Director General responsible for that area, Mrs. Venice Pottinger-Scott, is with us. There's an 18-month program. There's a 5-year program that will be worked on, but more immediately an 18-month program.
Yes.
And a set of priorities have been developed.
Yes.
What is exercising your mind most at this time?
I think what is exercising my mind most at this time is how to communicate to the public sector. I mean, that includes me, of course, the workers, the importance, the significance of these changes taking place. Because if you recall, there has been a lot of focus on trying to improve on the fiscal and monetary side of our operations, the macroeconomic variables, trying to manage that situation so as to point them in the right direction. One of the pillars of growth that was identified under that study that came out of the PIOJ, I think it was in 2011 sometime, they identified public sector reform as an essential part of trying to create the environment for growth to take place. And it is the delivery of the services, in particular, through our public sector employees that will make that difference. And so a major plank or a major program inside of this set of priorities is human resource management reform. It has two elements to it. It is how to use technology through a system that allows you to manage your employees' information as well as the payroll system, and also to re-engage, re-engineer the systems and processes and standardize so that we have similar improved behavior across our public sector, because they are important. It's so important in their delivery for the changes to take place that we want to see. So that is one of the biggest things, I think, in my mind as to how to ensure that we approach it in an appropriate manner so as to really get the results that we are aimed at.
Do you get the sense, Mrs. Pottinger-Scott, that public sector workers are attuned to the demands of the 21st century, that they are attuned to what is demanded of them in this era and their part in the whole growth agenda of Jamaica?
You know, the image that is often portrayed of the public sector worker is often not a favorable one. And I think we have to energize people into recognizing that we have to change that image. And in changing that image, we change the country's bottom line. We will affect growth directly by cutting down on transaction time that people take to do business and so on, that these things in fact contribute to growth or hinders it. It is how to make sure we get that into people's mind. Some people, I am sure, understand and accept it. I think through the change management programs and other leadership programs that are going to be part of this action plan is how we are going to communicate it even further. And of course, we have not been very good in the past sometimes with communication and the communication strategy. And the idea is to rev that up some more. And we're talking about our internal clients and external, how to communicate with them. So part of it is to focus on getting that message through to our public sectors.
There have been some achievements already. Things have already happened at customs in other areas.
Yes.
So
Yes.
improvements have taken place. Could you tell us about some of the things that have already taken place, you know, in public sector modernization?
Yes, a number of institutions, I am sure the public would agree that they have seen changes in a number of them. One of them is the RGD. You recall the situation prior to RGD becoming an executive
Yes,
agency.
yes.
And look at the situation now. And even when you talk to the public, yes, some people
Still
may
have
have
some
had
complaints.
some complaints and
Yes.
so on, but for the majority of persons, the service has improved significantly. Another place that you hear people talking about is PICA.
That's right.
Yes, where you get your
Passport
passport.
immigration and
Yes.
yes.
Significant improvements. The time to obtaining a passport, just the
Yes.
process of going through it and so on. It is so much better, so improved. And also, even in the TAJ, the tax agencies, improvements have been made, and they are continuing to work on even further improvements. There is another area relating to business
Yes.
that I must mention. Business people, in order to export or even to import, people used to have to go from agency to agency to agency to get various approvals. Under the modernization program, we have put in place a one-stop shop at Berth 11, and we carry on a regular basis the representatives from all the agencies that would normally involve people moving from one place to the other, and they are there in one place, and they are able to go through the process much easier. Of course, we also have to focus on the business of food safety, not only for the external or the importers, but also for our own domestic use. And a lot of what is goes on in this particular one-stop shop also relates to ensuring the safety of the food that is exported as well as the food that is imported. That was one of the first places I visited when I started in the job, and a custom broker was there, and he told me that the time it takes him to get through the process now has been cut by about 75%.
Good.
So I think, yes. And
That's a good concrete example
Yes.
on which to close. And if we can multiply that in the public sector, can you imagine the benefits to the economy and to customer service and business facilitation?
Yes.
Mrs. Venice Pothinger Scott telling us about why it is important that she succeeds in the job for the sake of all of us. We thank you for your company. Next week I'll be back. Until then, Ian Boyne wishing you a very pleasant day.
Stop. Think before you burn. The dry season is on, so there's little to no rainfall and wind speeds increase around this time too. What if the fire you light gets out of control? Where would you get the water to out the flame? Why not try bagging up waste and putting it outside for collection? If you absolutely must burn, construct a fire break by clearing an area around the site to be burnt. Use water to wet the perimeter of the brush being burnt. Burn in small piles and be sure to burn one pile at a time. If no water is available, ensure you have some dirt to douse the fire. Remember, take stock of yourself and think before you burn.
Government health centers and hospitals have an adequate supply of paracetamols like Panadol and Cetamol to treat the chikungunya virus. Paracetamol in the public health sector is free of cost. For more on chikungunya and the medication, call the Ministry of Health toll-free at 1-888-1-LOVE. That's 1-888-663-5683. Mondays to Fridays, 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. A message from the Ministry of Health.
Breast cancer is the leading cause of cancer-related deaths in Jamaican women over the age of 21. Don't become a statistic. Do your mammogram and breast self-examination today. Next, we highlight the stories of two survivors who were determined to defy the statistics.
On June 25, 2012, Jamaican sprinter Novleen Williams-Mills was diagnosed with breast cancer. In that same year, she finished 5th in the 400 meters at the London Olympics and won a bronze medal in the 4x400 meter relays. At 31 years old, this young woman is a 5-time world champion and 3-time Olympic medalist representing Brand Jamaica proudly. She was brave enough to do a double mastectomy, removing both her breasts to lessen her chances of getting the disease again. In recent times, Williams-Mills is bravely speaking out to stress that early detection is what saved her life and to educate people that breast cancer is no respecter of age, fitness, or talent. More important, she wants people to know breast cancer can be beaten. We salute Novleen Williams-Mills and all our breast cancer survivors. Keep fighting.
I would normally do my mammogram in October, but in September of 2010, I felt 2 small lumps under my arm. I was more or less a little frightened because I am very health conscious. Right? It happened on a Thursday, so I went to my doctor on the Friday and I showed her. And she examined it and she gave me some antibiotic that was a black dot. You know, it would be removed by the medicine in the antibiotic, but it didn't remove. So then she sent me to Dr. Alexander, Faye Alexander, and then she confirmed that it was cancer. You're sufficed with a wealth of hope and resilience. After I went to my GP, he sent me to a surgeon, and he examined me, and then he explained to me what he would have to do. He gave me several options, whether I want to keep the breast, remove the lump, or just get rid of the breast. I opt for getting rid of the breast because, you know, I just feel sure that, okay, when I get rid of it, it can't come back again in that breast. So I had long hair, so I make sure to cut my hair off, that when I start to lose it, nobody would say, what's happened to your hair and things like that, because they would have used to my hair being short already. So I did that, and when it started to fall off, I got a wig made, and then the treatment started. I did 17, I think it was 18 treatments, and the last one was this medication called Herceptin, which is very expensive. But I got help from my church, I got help from Ministry of Health, I got help from Face the Commodity and my friends, and they stood behind me in prayers. I can tell you right now, the chemo wasn't very nice, you know, you feel sick, but I didn't allow it to bother me so much. Even though I felt sick, I know exercise will be good. So I walked 1.5 miles every day. Yes, I didn't stop from work. I think I only stopped from work once. Yes, and I walked to and from work. One of the things I did, which I am thankful for, I stay away from anyone who would speak negatively about breast cancer. And anybody who has breast cancer, any woman or anybody who has cancer, I would advise them to stay away from people who speak negatively, because that would only, sort of discourage you and make you want to give up. But I didn't give up. Even though I saw my nails start to turn black, my hair fell off, my complexion got black, and everything that you didn't expect. But because I had a good doctor, they sort of walked me through everything what I would go through, and I felt very confident, and with God as my guide, I know I could beat cancer. And I would advise people, just once you see something, as a matter of fact, don't even wait make sure you do your test, especially women, do your mammogram every year. It is good.
As we strive to find our purpose in life, rising above mediocrity and being of service to our fellow citizens should be foremost on our minds. Purposeful living involves finding passion in whatever we do, knowing that our actions will have positive impact on others. We can give our lives real purpose by not being daunted by the myriad of mundane setbacks and distractions as we work to achieve our goals and turn our dreams into reality. Living life with a purpose may mean doing things that you won't be recognized for doing, but which you know are important to you and to others. Doing so despite the dire predictions of others and perceived limitations, conquering all fears. Before we go, these few words. The love of family and the admiration of friends is much more important than wealth and privilege. A thought from journalist Charles Kuralt reminding us to cherish our friendships as we journey through life. The information continues to flow on our website, jis.gov.jm, or you can follow us on Twitter at JIS News. For more features, visit our YouTube channel at Watch JIS. I'm Adrian Atkinson on behalf of the entire production team. Join us again tomorrow on this station.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.